Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session of Quispamsis Town Council of our regular meeting for December 16th, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order with the approval of the agenda with two changes to that, deleting item 8A and adding item 8H? No, 11H.
Oh, sorry.
Adding item 11H. It is a request for use of surplus funds for the Kennebec Regional Police Force. Councillor Bigger, please.
Just move approval of the agenda.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote. Councillor Miller. Just not showing. Thank you. Motion carried 7-0. May I have the land acknowledgement, please? Councillor Olson.
We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, and Mi'kmaq people whose ancestors, along with the Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this traditional territory. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias, and always in the best interest of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor. I have a few comments this evening. Earlier this month, I attended the final meeting of the year for the Fundy Regional Service Commission. As mandated by the provincial government, Quispamsis contributes a considerable amount of money to the FRC each year while working with other communities to improve our region. The province is reviewing the Regional Service Commissions around New Brunswick and will be providing an update of the work to be completed by the FRC since 2023. There will be an opportunity to address the progress and pitfalls and how we can continually improve as we move forward with this new regional body. Look for the review to be in print by the end of March 2026. Yesterday, I was joined by Councillor Mike Bigger, CAO Ian Watson, and other regional and federal representatives and emergency services at an announcement of $2.6 million in funding to help communities prepare for and respond to wildfires. We are seeing more wildfires in New Brunswick each year, and this federal-provincial contribution will help the Kennebec Valley and other communities be as ready as possible for what may come. I was very pleased to join officials from other municipalities around the region last week at the announcement of the collaborative healthcare clinic in the north end of St. John. This new way of service delivery is going to help ease some of the strain on our overburdened healthcare system by providing more access to primary care. According to New Brunswick government, more of these clinics are coming all over the province. We will continue to work with our provincial colleagues to ensure the Kennebec Valley receives some attention it deserves during this process. And the government has reached its goal of having 10 of these clinics announced. It's almost election time in New Brunswick. Municipal elections will be held in May of 2026, just a few short months away. Beginning in January, valuable information for anyone interested in running in the election will be posted on the town's website and social media. A new application window for the Community Investment Program opens on Tuesday, January 6, 2026. The Community Investment Program supports individuals, groups, and organizations who contribute to the quality of life of our residents. There are 2 streams of funding available: donations of under $500 and grants of more than $500. The deadline for applications for this cycle is February the 3rd. Find more information in the News and Notices section of our website. A link to the application will be added when the application window opens. And I want to congratulate the KVHS female hockey team for hosting a tournament at the Qplex in early December. 8 teams from around the province came to the community to participate. The town supported the tournament with a $750 donation through the sport hosting program. KVHS made the championship game during the exciting weekend. And I want to thank members of council and staff once again for supporting a local family for Christmas through the partnership with St. Mark's Church. Through donations and our lunchroom canteen, the town supported a family with 4 children this year. The town donated about $800 in cash and gifts, which were delivered to the church today for distribution for Christmas. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to those in need through this program and the many others that you support throughout our community. This is our last regular meeting of Quispamsis Town Council for 2025. I want to remind everyone that Town Hall and the Qplex Administration Office will be operating on reduced holiday hours beginning on Christmas Eve. That's Wednesday, December 24th, and returning to regular business hours on Friday, January the 2nd. Offices will be closed on Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and New Year's Day. There will also be different hours of operation for the walking track at the Qplex. For full holiday schedules, please visit the News and Notices section of our website or see the pinned post on the top of our Facebook page. Also, please note, Farrell, our waste management contractor, does not provide collection on December 25th. For anyone who normally has their recycling collected on Thursdays, your pickup week will be Saturday, December 27th, instead of Christmas Day. Please place your containers curbside by 7 a.m. Visit the garbage and recycling page of our website for more information on the town's waste management program. And great news, our outdoor skating rink at the Arts and Culture Park opened about an hour ago and will be opened daily from 10 until 10 p.m. when weather permits. Monitor our website and social media for the latest information and click on the webcam of the Arts and Culture Park page for a live look at the rink. Public skating will also be offered at the Qplex throughout the holidays. Visit the Qplex page on our website and click on Public Schedules for the most up-to-date information. Please remember that our snowplows will be responding to the needs of our community throughout the season. It is important to take a moment to ensure your safety and that of our operators. Motorists, please leave a gap between you and the snowplow so it can do its job safely and effectively. Once again, homeowners, please place driveway markers several feet back from the edge of the roadway to ensure they are not damaged or dislodged. They could cause injury or damage to our equipment. And be sure to wear bright or reflective clothing when walking in our community so that the plow operators and other drivers can see you and your path. I hope you've had a chance to enjoy the Holiday Dreamland display at the Arts and Culture Park. If not, please be sure to get out and see the lights throughout this magical time of year. As we look forward to another year of growth in population, more development of commercial and residential buildings, with a workforce that is here to serve our community, I want to thank our CAO, Mr. Ian Watson, and the team of Quispamsis staff and employees as they continue to create a wonderful community that is like no other. This meeting of council is the last of the first quarter century of the millennium. Our town continues to grow, our population and commercial businesses are more diversified, and we are proud to be the community which we have evolved, a community of choice. So on behalf of Council, I want to wish you and everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a safe and healthy holiday season. We look forward to seeing you and hearing from you in 2026. So from all of us, we wish you a Merry Christmas. Everybody? Merry Christmas. All right, moving on. Looking for a disclosure of interests. Seeing there are none. Presentations. Proposed municipal plan and zoning bylaw changes with an update and schedule. So we have in attendance virtually. We have Jennifer Brown, is an associate with Dillon Consulting. Jennifer, welcome. It's nice to see you again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and hello, Council. I'm just going to share my screen. It may take a second. Okay, great. As noted, I'm here to provide a very quick overview of where we are and what's upcoming in the municipal plan and zoning bylaw update. Um, just to give everybody kind of an overview of where we are in the project and how we got here. This project has been a long time coming and also includes both the municipal plan and zoning bylaw updates, but also very importantly, the housing action strategy. We kicked this work off in December 2023. We went out to the public throughout February and March of 2024. And really from there have been drafting and kind of keeping in touch with stakeholders, but drafting the housing action strategy and also beginning in June, drafting these updates to your municipal plan and zoning bylaw. We are, I'll get into the details of this, but we are planning to go back out to the public and stakeholders throughout January and February, leading us through the adoption schedule that will kick off in January and run through April. A quick overview of the municipal plan and why we're kind of undertaking this update. So it's been quite some time since your last municipal plan was updated. There are a slew of studies that you've accomplished since that last big update. The other kind of key piece here is to remove reference to those studies and implement the appropriate goals and objectives of the studies that you've undertaken. We're also looking to modernize and simplify this document so that it can improve administration and readability. There's something to be said for folks being able to pick this document up wherever they are and however much experience they may have with development and understand what Quispamsis, what their goals are with respect to development. The plan also introduces mechanisms to manage infrastructure as well as density, given the current development pressure being experienced in the community. We also, in reflection of that, updated the residential and commercial development framework to better respond to those pressures and trends. The big moves in your municipal plan, these big changes that you're going to see, we're pitching that we do a primary or introduce a primary development area. We're really looking at a density focused approach to housing and a development pattern focused approach to commercial development, as well as a two-tiered approach to rural areas. So what does that mean? With respect to the primary development area, this is really where we're saying, let's draw a circle around where you have your municipally owned services, whether that be water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, or a combination of any of those. Development in that primary development area is intended to be a little bit more dense, so more compact development, meaning smaller lot size. It also brings opportunity for higher density development as well as higher intensity development, meaning your bigger box stores, your more intensive need with respect to servicing. Development outside the primary development area is envisioned to remain rural in character over the lifespan of the municipal plan, which is approximately 10 years. We're looking here at a very draft version of the primary development area. This encapsulates essentially where the municipality currently has services and within the next 1 to 2 years has received funding or has budgeted for expansion of services. Another big move here that I previously mentioned is around the housing approach. So, what does density focused approach mean? We're essentially looking for opportunities to gently increase density in those traditional suburban neighborhoods and while accommodating kind of a middle ground to allow for transition from your single dwelling dominant areas to your mixed use and more commercial heavy areas where the taller and more dense development is envisioned to go. So the approach directs the zoning bylaw to have low density residential, medium density residential, and high density residential zones, trying to clear up and simplify the existing framework. The commercial and mixed use approach, again, it's this development pattern focused approach to commercial development. So you have throughout Quispamsis a myriad of areas or nodes that have a mixed use established pattern. So what that means is residential uses at a certain scale. We're also looking through this approach to introduce town center as a more increased density node. We recognize through the town center policy that this may not be achieved through this next 10 years, but we're trying to set the framework and the foundation for this to evolve over time to make a recognizable town center for the residents in response to the residents' feedback. The approach here directs the zoning bylaw to accommodate 3 commercial land use zones based on dominant land use character and development pattern. So mixed use commercial, where your commercial's at the forefront, but there's allowances for residential, usually more dense residential. Your mixed use residential, where the residential piece is the predominant development pattern there, which accommodates commercial uses but at a smaller scale and a scale that is less likely to conflict with lower density residential uses. And then we introduce the mixed use industrial zone, which is really focused on moving the small pockets of industrial development to being increasingly lighter in intensity, almost towards commercial. With respect to the rural areas, again, a very development pattern focused on rural development. We're directing and recognizing the kind of unique residential development pattern that happens in your unserviced areas. So we want to allow the continuation of traditional rural uses, but increase that separation from suburban uses. So the plan directs kind of a two-pronged approach, which is a rural residential zone, which allows for development that's compatible with rural uses and rural lifestyle. This means larger lots, larger accessory buildings, more land in general, allowance for things like chickens and home industry uses. Your rural area, it's more intensive uses such as agricultural. Residential use is still permitted, but the idea is that they may be either secondary or they're to a main use or are occurring on a very large lot. With respect to the zoning bylaw, the purpose of the update, again, ease of administration is a big crux here. The bylaw is currently very complicated to administer and has generated a lot of PAC applications, and we're attempting to really decrease the need for PAC and council applications. We're attempting to remove kind of the rubber stamp applications that have been trending over the last few years. Again, increasing flexibility is prioritized and updating to be more responsive to development pressures and trends, while also kind of protecting that character that residents are so proud of. I mentioned some of this information previously, so that low density residential zone, what does that mean? You're really applying this to your neighborhoods that are approaching full build out, that are really defined as being that individual, that single family, maybe a duplex, maybe a semi-detached, already there. And then also allowing for up to 4 townhouse units. So this really is wrapping around the areas that are established as your traditional suburban neighborhoods and essentially keeping them kind of in check, allowing for some gentle density through accessory dwelling units. I just note here that accessory dwelling unit approach is similar, but a little bit more flexible because we're consolidating your existing rules into essentially uh, 2 types of accessory dwelling units. What we're going to call accessory dwelling units are subsidiary, meaning 80 square meters or less, units that are attached to the main dwelling, whether that be an attic apartment, a basement apartment, or something that is physically attached to a sidewall of a house. We're calling that an accessory dwelling unit. Your garden suite is still that 80 square meters, so still secondary, still smaller, but is detached. That could be something that's over top of a detached garage, or it can be something that is kind of on its own. We're looking at opportunities to accommodate several accessory dwelling units on a lot, depending on the context, depending on the setbacks, depending on lot size, etc. Your medium density residential zone is looking at a maximum of 24 units. We're sliding that 1 unit dwelling into a conditional use. When we hit these medium density residential zones, we're attempting to move these uh, as the kind of primary focus, with these smaller, lower density uses kind of moving out of the priority column. Your maximum height here is 14 meters with a bit of a caveat. The easiest way to explain this is the taller the building, the larger the setback. We're requiring any building over 11 meters to increase their rear and side yard setbacks by additional 1 meter um, as you go up 1 meter in height. High density residential zone, you're unlikely, sorry, to see this on the map. Um, it is really set up as a zone into zone. So this is how council will deal with kind of those square peg round hole type applications. It's really a way for the public to be involved in those higher density uses. We're looking at a maximum height of 21 meters. Again, same idea, taller the building, larger the setback, to kind of protect the lower density residential neighborhoods. The rural residential zone, we're looking at 1 and 2 units as well, and a minimum lot size of a hectare. This allows for the continuation of the rural development pattern that is so prevalent throughout Quispamsis. We're also introducing a group dwelling zone. You have mini home parks already. This will fit into the group dwelling zone. We're also introducing provisions to allow for tiny homes in that group dwelling zone. And then when we think about more commercial and mixed use, your mixed use residential, as I mentioned, prioritize residential uses. Your mixed use commercial prioritizes commercial uses. Your mixed use industrial, it's that mix of commercial and light, but does not include residential. The intention here is to move those industrial areas increasingly lighter in terms of intensity and increase the ability to integrate some commercial uses. We also have a spot zone for general commercial. You have some pockets of individual kind of commercial uses throughout the community, particularly within neighborhoods that may serve the surrounding neighborhoods. We want to accommodate those as well. The introduction of the town center is really something we heard quite a bit about when we talked to residents. They want this identifiable central area for the community to kind of rally around. We introduced a new zone to support the intensification of lands at the intersection of Hampton and Pettingill Roads. It's really, again, this long-term vision, visually distinct town center and downtown. Um, this will allow for increased height. It also subsequently will require increased design. We're looking at smaller commercial footprints to kind of encourage that mom and pop shop feel and encouragement of upper floor residential. The draft town center boundary looks like this. Other zones, just to note here, rural, pit and quarry, parks, rec, institutional conservation, really no big changes here, very minimal with respect to um, what you have now. Okay, in terms of next steps, I mentioned at the top, we are kind of heading into engagement. So the draft municipal plan and zoning bylaw are planned to be released as part to the public as part of the January 20th council meeting. So your first meeting back, you get to see these brand new documents. And then immediately after, we kind of roll out public engagement. So online engagement will be available. As usual, folks will be able to see these documents, interact with the documents, and provide feedback. We're also planning to do in-person engagement January 29th as well as 31st. There'll be afternoon and evening sessions. On January 29th, and then 2 sessions on the 31st. Just a note here, the 29th is a Thursday, the 31st is a Saturday. We had really good luck in the past with engaging with residents on Saturdays, so we've decided to hopefully replicate that again. So council adoption process really kicks off in January and will roll throughout April. This entire process includes opportunities for the public to provide feedback to their counselors and to staff, both in a kind of verbal capacity and a written capacity, which is inserted directly into the public record. So there are lots of opportunities to speak to staff, to speak to council, as well as provide feedback. And we're really quite excited to get back out into the community and understand if what we've pitched here is really reflective of what they've been telling us over the past 2 years. So I'll stop there and very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Certainly that was a lot to squeeze into that very small time frame. You did an excellent job, so thank you for that. I will turn to council now and see if they have any comments or questions for you to respond to. I guess you did an excellent job. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I would like to move that we council thank Ms. Brown for her detailed presentation, and we look forward to next steps.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Locke. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. We will see you in the new year, 2026. Thanks very much, Jennifer. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye. Item number 6, public hearings. We do not have any. Minutes of the previous meeting. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question. Deputy Mayor, did you have a question? No? Okay. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item 8, unfinished business. We do not have any. Correspondence. None. Item number 10, bylaws. Item 10A, proposed sewage utility bylaw amendment number 05-26, staff report from treasurer. Consideration of third and final reading. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Item 10B, proposed water utility bylaw amendment number 024-22, staff report from town treasurer. Councillor Donovan. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor
Reading, so I don't think so.
Bigger. The motion is there for reading, please. That was moved by Councillor Donovan. Good. Councillor Donovan, would you like to read that?
Whereas a notice has been published on the Town of Quispamsis website pursuant to Section 15.3 and 15.4 of the Local Governance Act, and whereas Amendment 024-22 received first and second reading at the December 2nd, 2025 regular meeting, Council give third reading to Water Utility Bylaw Amendment number 024-22 to increase the water user fee fixed charge component by 3.94%, with the basic rate going from $279 to $290 annually, with larger meters also increasing by 3.94%. The water user fee consumption charge component up to 96 cubic meters per quarter, to increase by 3.94% from 1.1395 to 1.1844 per cubic meter, and the second level usage charge to increase from 1.8046 to 1.8757 per cubic meter, which is an increase of 3.94%.
Thank you, Councillor. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. And just as a procedural matter, I didn't have the councillor read Part A, but just for public notice, whereas a notice has been published on the Town of Quispamsis website pursuant to Section 15-3 and 15(4) of the Local Governance Act, and whereas Amendment number 05-26 received first and second reading on the December 2nd, 2025 regular meeting, Council gave third reading to Sewer Utility Amendment number 05-26, which will increase the annual sewerage utility rate by 3.99% or $23 from $577 per equivalent user to $600 per equivalent user, and a revision to Section 8H regarding additional dwelling units as presented. Just wanted to make sure that we had that read publicly. Item C, proposed remuneration bylaw, amendment number 018-10, staff report from Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to members of council, draw your attention to the staff report that summarizes the initial exploration of council remuneration in preparation for June of 2026. And to roll the clock back a little further, it was back in September of this year where council directed us to consider and return some recommendations on the council remuneration bylaw. And specifically at that time, there were three main areas of interest: the salary or remuneration of members, the allowance and how we manage expenses, and then consideration of extended health benefits. The staff report summarizes our recommendations in each of those areas. I would offer that in Section 3, the salary of members, the recommendation is we not increase the rate in 2026, but rather continue the increases in accordance with the Consumer Price Index in 2027, and every year thereafter. And that the current remuneration rates for council be increased by that CPI for the previous year on an ongoing basis, beginning again in 2027. For allowance for expenses, same kind of thing. Recommended that beginning in budget 2027 and every year thereafter, that the increase be matched to the Consumer Price Index for the previous 12 months. There was discussion about the overall expense budget available for council members and the mayor, and it was thought that if council is amenable, we would arrange to pool the total budget and allow an individual councillor, deputy mayor, or mayor to increase their allotment under that total pool by a maximum of 20% given that some may need an extraneous amount in a given year, provided that there's prior written approval from both the mayor and the CAO, and provided that that total pool would accommodate that. It would have enough room in that total budget to allow for that 20% overage by any one member for any one event. We've also recommended that that members of council adhere to the, just being explicit, that members of council adhere to the same staff travel policy, which I believe is attached for reference in your eScribe file. We're happy to make that available to you in other formats as well. It just details the mechanics around expense reimbursement that applies to non-bargaining to all staff actually, and we're suggesting that we just articulate that those same expectations and processes apply to council. And that finally, we are not recommending implementation of extended health benefits for any member of council at this time. So you'll see some details with respect to the implications there and any risk associated therewith. I'd certainly welcome any further discussion. Recognizing this is our first introduction of possible changes to you, welcome the feedback, at which point we would come back next time with revised bylaw language for your consideration, first and second reading. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. One thing that I did notice, and I will leave the chair, Deputy Mayor, with the CPI, that in 2023, I believe, was at about 7%. And I think that that's a number that I would have a hard time dealing with. I think that we should have a cap on CPI, that the increase, if it is CPI related and it's at 7%, I feel that we should probably look at the same as non-union staff. So if anyone wants to make that change to the motion, I think that should be included. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I am back to the seat. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, I would endorse that amendment. I'm not sure if the clerk can direct how we should do that at the... I was ready to make a motion on this item, but if perhaps we want to entertain that idea of installing a cap into the language, I think that would be commensurate with what we see happening fiscally in our reality, you know? Maybe we could get a little direction on that, and then if we can modify the motion and that's amenable to everybody, then... I believe the motion is editable
It's
insofar
to
as that
seek
it hasn't
legal
yet been
review,
made,
yeah.
right?
So are we okay to go forward with that, or should we put in that there should be a cap on that? I would feel more comfortable knowing that there's a cap on it. Can we add that in, Madam Clerk? Just not 7, but between a certain range, and whether we say that it's at the same level as non-union employees, that it should not exceed that amount of money, or that amount of percentage increase, rather.
So, Your Worship, as the motion is, of course, to direct staff to draft an amendment for legal review and to return to council, that seems that can just be taken under advisement and the motion can still stand as it's written here, I believe.
Sounds good. I'll go to Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Bigger and others. My suggestion would be if council is amenable to a friendly amendment, to have that recommendation reworded slightly, to consider the above and provide resulting direction to staff to draft revisions to bylaw 018 accordingly, including consideration of a cap on maximum compensation increases and seeking legal review before returning to council for first and second readings in early 2026.
Councillor Baker, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'll make a motion on
Okay,
that.
thank you. It's been made by, the motion's been moved by Councillor Bigger and seconded by Councillor Luck. Councillor Luck, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess through you to Mr. Watson, I just have a few questions. So first of all, I am in agreement with the cap. In terms of section 4, you had mentioned that, you know, there'd be like a 20%, you know, kind of that we can dip in if someone, like perhaps if one counselor needs a bit more money in their expenses versus another. And I was just wondering more the process of how that will work. I'm in agreement with it because I think it would help a lot of times when some counselors don't spend it all. But at the same time, how will those decisions be made? Because it will be kind of during the fiscal year. So you don't want to give approval and then find out that the money you thought you had in the pool actually, the counselor did plan on spending. So I guess, I don't know if I'm looking for an answer, but even if we don't have an answer, I think that just needs to be fleshed out a bit more. So if we're trying to still stay within a budget, I think that just needs to be clarified a bit, because technically everyone has a budget. And if we give 20% to someone else, then it takes the budget away from the counselor, and which is usually fine, but I just think that there needs to be a process so that we don't go over budget. And then also I noticed that in the report, there was really no context in terms of the recommendation. And I was just wondering if you could provide a bit more context into the extended health benefits in terms of did you do a cost analysis, or what was the rationale for why it was recommended not to offer extended health benefits? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Mr. Watson, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Luck. Appreciate the process-related question. That's what you're entrusting us to do, so you can trust us to implement policies and practices in support of making sure that there is documented process around that. So we'll be mindful of that for sure. With respect to the extended health benefits, it was really a jurisdictional scan of what other councils are offering, and we did not. That, combined with the specific request, was for a specific member of council. If you'll recall the discussion, it was around not all of council, but it was for a specific member of council to be beneficiary to extended health benefits, and we didn't see the equity in that, nor did we see precedent for that.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Deputy Mayor Squire, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple comments, and one is when it'll be 5 years that I came on council, and so our stipends were already predetermined by a survey or some review that council had. I think 5 years is a long time. And I don't think it should be written in stone that we're just going to follow that analysis from 5 years ago. I think council, people that put their name up there for public service, have the right to be able to look at compensation, whether they can afford to be a counselor, or miss work and things like that. So I personally I thought we were going to do a review of the compensation, and so I would have liked to have seen that, not just a consumer price index increase. I'd like to know where we stand with other municipalities, the scope of work that's being done. So I was just a little disappointed that we didn't have that. So the other area that on the expenses too, I mean, again, it's just a flat 20%. Like, I don't know how that calculates where it comes out, when I think it was Councillor Miller said try to get a hotel room in Montreal, downtown Montreal, for $150. That's not going to happen. So I don't know, it's a flat 20% was it, and what analysis was used to get that. And on the approval, if somebody wants to go over, just to make sure we have it all covered, it says further recommendation that a councillor, deputy mayor, or mayor is permitted with the approval of the mayor and the CEO provided, and that's great, but I think we have to include that if the mayor wishes to go over, that somebody else has to approve it with the CAO. Because right now we have 2 persons approving council, but only 1 person approving mayor, just for protection of the mayor's seat, that be added. So those are my comments. I would like to see a bit more analysis done on compensation and actual, I'm fine with the benefits. I understand that if you open up benefits to council members and they're only here for 4 years and they use the benefits and spike the usage, I totally understand that. But I think the others actually would be welcome to me to have a review of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the Deputy Mayor and others. Appreciate the comment about the addition to provide the mayor some protection to have a second reviewer for requests that are pertinent to that position, if it's exceeding the budget allotted. With respect to the overall compensation increase, if it's what council's wish for us to take a deeper dive, we certainly are willing and happy to do that. We are reacting to the initial discussion that in September where our sense was that the overall compensation for councilors, the deputy mayor and mayor were largely satisfactory, but deserved an adjustment or a mechanism for adjustment. In fairness, the existing bylaw provides that mechanism for adjustment. We're not suggesting anything fundamentally different than what exists today. But if it's council's wish for us to take a deeper dive and do a comparative analysis, we will do that without hesitation. I would just be cautious that May, June will be soon upon us. So we will need to bump some other priorities in order to make this the priority if that's council's wish. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick comment on the CPI adjustments and potentially putting a cap on it. I've been here for 14 years, and I think if you look at the average, we're always significantly below everybody else. We've had years with 0, 0.8, 1.1. We have had the year a couple of years ago, I think it was 6%. And I think maybe one other year we may have reached higher than the standard staff or union. So you can look at that, but I just want to be cognizant of, in my 3 terms here, we had to do a couple times do an adjustment to the council pay because it dropped below where everybody else was going. So so it's one of these half of one, half of the other, whatever you come back with. I just want to put that out there. But also, we've had a year where we had a negative CPI, where we didn't go negative, we actually went 0. So so there's that context to discuss as well, because we did, like I said, one year, I think it was 2019, it was negative 1.2 or 1.5. But we got a 0 that year. So again, if you look at the average, we're generally the raises for council, all council, mayor, deputy mayor included, have been significantly lower on the average than the other one. So I think 1.8 or 2.1, I think was this year. I can't recall, but it's generally lower than what everybody else gets. So there are those odd years, but just to know that they are odd years. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. So perhaps with the idea of having a cap, perhaps we should also have a minimum amount that we don't go down below. So if the non-union receive 2.4%, then that's what we would get. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Councillor Thompson, please.
I forget what I was going to say.
I can come back to you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I concur with the deputy mayor on the review of remuneration, and I would like to propose that a 5-year cycle be introduced, that it would automatically be reviewed the way that it has been in the past, and so we're maintaining current, up-to-date remuneration with the comparative municipalities that we use from time to time. So I'd like to propose that review be taken, and also at the same time just review the CPI on an annual basis, what it has been, just as Councillor Miller has said, that it fluctuates considerably, and so record that, and we could make further decisions on the new information once we get it back.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Luck, with other points being taken for consideration by staff and legal counsel. On the question, please. Yes, Deputy Mayor?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So Councillor Olson's comments are included in the motion, or is that a separate motion?
There's a motion on the floor right now. We can go back and have another motion for a review every 5 years, if that's what Councillor Olson would like. Deputy Mayor?
Okay, so Councillor Olson mentioned the review. So there'd be 2 motions.
There'll
one
be 2
for
motions, yes.
This, okay.
So we'll vote on this motion first. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Counselor Olson, if you would like to make your motion.
Yes, I would like to move that staff review the council remuneration in consideration of the past studies with the like municipalities to make sure that we're still compatible with the movement with the people that we've reviewed with before.
It's been moved by Counselor Olson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question? Yes. Counselor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question on that is the last time we had a review, we actually paid a consultant to do the review. Is that the intention of the motion, or is it just for staff to look at? I guess just I'm looking at the cost associated with that versus staff talking to their, colleagues within the, similar regions and getting a feel.
So you're absolutely correct. It did go out to, I believe it was Karen Gordon that did the previous review. And we didn't provide for this in the 2026 budget. You're correct on that. So is your question to have staff look at that, Councillor Olson?
How much did it cost for her to do that?
I can't recall off the top of my head. And I don't know if that's public information or not, Councillor Miller.
Yeah, the last time we did the review, we actually did it in conjunction with all of the other staff being reviewed at the same time. So it was a combination of what the actual cost for the staff, for the council part, I don't know, but it was part of the overall review because we were doing a compensation review for all of staff and union at the same time. And we we added the council on that. So it may be the next time we do a review to do the exact same thing, because to do one now, it won't happen before the next election. And to your point, Madam Mayor, we don't have we didn't budget anything for it either, so.
Thank you, Councillor Miller, for clarifying. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
On that, yeah, Your Worship, thank you. I would be very comfortable with the staff looking at that report and reviewing it and giving their feedback to staff based on the report that we had before. If I recall, there were different levels, and I think the council of the day sort of went, I don't know if it was the middle of the pack or the lower of the pack, but it seemed to me, if I recall, middle of the pack. So I can't imagine that review is that out of date in a matter of 5 years. So I would be very comfortable with Mr. Watson looking at that review and just coming back to us and letting us know, giving us an update on what that looked like and how we still feel about it. Motion, Councillor Luck or Councillor Olson's motion with that in mind.
Thank you. So the motion was to direct staff to draft an amendment to bylaw 018-10, including consideration of CPI cap as presented. This is the first motion. And was that voted on?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I didn't move down. Should be there, should be. 1 second, folks. Yeah, but it's just not showing up on my screen. There we go. The second part to this was council directs staff to review council compensation every 5 years. Councillor Olson. It was moved by Councillor Olson and seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question.
Just on the question?
Just 1 second. Just pull down on your list. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Just on the question, should we go for 4 years, Councillor Olson? This was an oddball because we had an added year. Would you prefer the 4 years? Yes, okay.
So Madam Clerk, changing that to every 4 years. On the question, the council directs staff to review council compensation every 4 years. Please vote. Councillor Miller, are you in favor? Thank you. Motion carried 7-0. Item 10D, proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 038-54, staff report from Development Officer, Planning and Development Services Manager. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I'd move that council direct the clerk to schedule a public hearing date and advertise pursuant to the Community Planning Act, Section 111, and refers the item to the Planning Advisory Committee for their written comments.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote. Councillor Miller, your machine's not working tonight. Thank you. Motion carried 7-0. Item 10E, proposed building bylaw amendment number 055-01, staff report from Development Officer, Planning and Development Services Manager. Councillor Olson.
Which item is that, Your Worship?
Oh, you had your light on. Item 10E.
10E. I'd move the council directs the clerk to post notice of the proposed building bylaw amendment as per the Building Code Administration Act and the Local Governance Act.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. New business, item 11A, council final acceptance, Woodley Park Subdivision Phase 28C, Queen Construction Limited. Staff report from engineering technologist. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Thank you, Worship. Whereas the developer has satisfied the minimum requirements in accordance with subdivision bylaw 035 and the developer's agreement, it would be appropriate for council to grant final acceptance of the Woodley Park Phase 28C subdivision. In addition, we recommend that council approve release of security bond balance of $54,671 to Queen Construction Limited.
Thank you. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Scryer, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. 11B, draft stormwater management plan. Overview from Director of Engineering and Works. Mr. Loja.
Thank you, through your worship. We look at all of our infrastructure the last few years with an eye towards how are we going to manage that. The last couple of years, if council will recall, we've done streets, we've done some recreation facilities. Last year, we introduced our waste. I'll look at our wastewater and water systems, and also our stormwater systems. The process with any of the asset management plans basically breaks down to what have we got, what kind of shape is it in, what's it going to cost for us to maintain it, are there any issues that are going to arise out of the future management of those assets. And what that approach did is it led us to the document that was presented to council. Now, what we're going to see over the next little while is it's going to become more and more prevalent as development occurs in the town. What type of stormwater issues are going to arise? What are the things that the town's going to have to manage, in the future? I think we've got to first off acknowledge that we are looking at a standard that we currently use that was developed quite a number of years ago. And a lot of the development that we're approving these days is based on that previous standard. And we recognize that there are certain areas that we can improve upon. There are certain areas that we can manage a little differently. And there's going to be certain areas that we're going to have to invest in. And the Stormwater Management Plan was a document that we wanted to have in place before we made recommendations to council on how we would go through with this. So if you look at just some of the key principles of the document itself, we're looking at, it surprised me when I read it, $89 million worth of stormwater infrastructure in the town. Now that ranges everything from concrete pipe in the ground to driveway covers to the ditches, open ditch systems. And of that, almost $90 million, well over, three quarters of it, a little over $75 million is in good or very good shape. So we're dealing with an asset that has a long and a very useful life, but we're also looking at an asset where if there are issues that arise, it can be quite costly to address because it is a linear asset. That means it's an asset that runs the length of the street. So it's not just as simple as saying, okay, we're going to replace one pipe or we're going to replace one driveway culvert. It's one that it has a downstream effect. So with our stormwater management plan and our asset management plan, we asked the consultants to look at best practices, what is being done out there in the industry as a whole for municipalities. But we also asked them to look at what are some of the practices that we should be looking towards in the future. When you look at the recommendations, and it is a good example of how to do an infrastructure analysis, is you look at the basic SWOT analysis, that strengths and the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats. And what that generally does is will break out what are the things that we should be paying attention to. And one of the things that popped out for us at the staff level was that a lot of municipalities, and is being recommended in this particular document as well, are making a concerted effort to upgrade the investment in the infrastructure, the stormwater infrastructure. If you come across a bottleneck or if you come across a constriction area, what types of level of effort should it take, what are the costs that are going to be associated with that? Even just replacing some of the things that we have in place. So with an asset management plan, the level of investment is based on fixing or replacing what we actually own now. So the consultants are recommending an annual investment of about $400,000 a year. Through either the establishment of a reserve fund, through direct budgeting, through operating, through the capital program. But they're seeing that as a reasonable investment in stormwater infrastructure that will allow the town to address any infrastructure issues that are coming out. Like I said, with about a $90 million investment, with the length of stormwater infrastructure in the ground, it would have been relatively prohibitive to do a exact site by site, culvert by culvert analysis. So what they did is they looked at general watershed catchment areas and identified sample problems that would have arisen throughout the assessment. And when they do that, what it does is it takes us to the stormwater, the management component of our asset management plan, and they come across things like, what the system, where does it require upgrades? Where are there capacity issues in the existing system? Can the town introduce green infrastructure or nature-based solutions? And that's becoming a little bit more prevalent as we look in developments that need to make sure that the water that comes onto the property is either retained on the property, dispersed appropriately within the property back to the groundwater, or if it passes through the development, the same amount of water that's coming into the development is the same amount of water that's going out of the development. So there's some level of protection on the downstream properties. They're recommending enhanced maintenance and inspection of our stormwater systems, and one of the key items that they picked up was a much better review of the driveway culvert program that we've got in the town. For example, in the past, and we've been able to manage it a little bit better in the last little while, but somebody would come in and say, I want my driveway culvert replaced without a reason. And we would say, okay, off we go. And you get to the site and go, this just doesn't seem right. And the staff would come back to us and say, there's a crack. and it's aesthetic. And when we looked at the process and said, okay, let's take aesthetics aside, now we have to look at function and capacity. If there's an issue with a collapse, a physical issue with the culvert ends, then we would look at it. But anything with an aesthetic nature, we would put on a hold, and those would be low priority. So we've already started ranking some of the priorities when it comes to driveway culverts. But the other thing that's been identified is that is a 100% municipal responsibility. So that if somebody calls up with a driveway culvert, basically, I would say it's like a free kitten. You get a kitten, you get it for life. You get a driveway culvert, we own it for life. So we're maintaining a driveway culvert because it's in our municipal right of way. And that was one of the key takeaways that the consultant said, that we really should look at an appropriate driveway culvert inspection and replacement policy that truly reflects the level of effort and a prioritization of those culverts. So those are that's a recommendation that we would be taking away from the document. Regardless of what our neighbors to the south may say, there is such a thing as climate change. And that's the other component that we've been looked to address in our management plan, is when we look at a return interval for a storm, what are those types of intervals that we want to design for? Back in the day, if it's every 5 years, or is it 50 years, a 100-year storm? And what we're seeing is, and everybody says, you're having a 100-year storm every year now, and is that become the new norm? But there's a trade-off to that. Is if we say, okay, we're going to go to a climate responsive type of a standard, now that places a significant onus on the town to address our own capital infrastructure at a significant cost, but it also places a potentially prohibitive restriction on development in the town, because now you've got developers having to design and build to a higher standard than we've asked of our own facilities. So the consultants are recommending that we look at that climate resiliency, that climate component, and decide, okay, how are we going to apply climate change parameters to our stormwater management plan? So that's another component of the document that has been left for staff to look at. There's also a community engagement component, flood risk awareness, flood protection, and we've seen that over the last few years, particularly on the riverside properties, where we're engaging the neighbors more, providing some level of assistance, some level of emergency preparedness. So that's a document that they've asked us to look at as well. And this is all managed through policies and bylaws that we look to enact in the town. So the stormwater management plan document as a whole has taken these basic components and said to the town, okay, here's what you have. Here are some of your trouble spots that you're dealing with. Here's how we recommend you deal with it. Here's what it's going to cost. So we can take this particular document and now annually, when we come before council and we look at our stormwater under the line item budget, stormwater capital, we can say, yes, it's a $400,000 investment this year. We're addressing 2 or 3 or 4 areas of concern. And what that does is that we're enhancing our capacity for the future. In the 2026 budget, I'm sure if council will recall, we've also identified a stormwater development guideline that we're proposing to develop for future development in the town, which is a recommendation of this particular document. So what that is going to do is we're going to be working on what level of development do we want to undertake or require our developers to undertake when it comes to developing their properties. A lot of communities in North America are going to a stormwater fee. And we didn't touch on that in this particular document because of the level of development that we undertake. But what we're seeing in a lot of larger jurisdictions is a stormwater fee it's a user fee. Basically, if you dump into a stormwater pond or a retention area that has to be cleaned and maintained time over time, so who's going to pay for that? And that's where you see a lot of this is coming to play: sediment removal, reinstatement of sediment fencing, things like that. We're at the level right now where we don't have that intensity of development in the town when it comes to stormwater, but it is a consideration that with regular review that may come through the town. So as far as the document is concerned, this is going to be one of the components when we look at enterprise-wide. This coming that we've started this month, and over the next 6 months, we'll be looking at an enterprise-wide asset management plan for the town. And what that will do is it'll take all of the asset classes, linear and vertical, that's the pipes and the buildings, and make sure that we're assessing them all the same way, that we can come back to council the same way with recommendations for protection, long-term financing, and management of those things. And this stormwater plan basically is just that one component of that area. So we're going to take this and make sure that it jives with all of the other documents that we've got, the road management plan, or water and wastewater management plan, and when we get into the eventualities for our fleet and facilities, those types of plans. So it's really just an overview to see the context without getting into specific areas and specific areas of concern. Because when you look at the specific areas of concern that were identified in the plan, when they look at the reasons why they are considered quote unquote areas of concern, they're all basically the same thing. Your wetlands you're losing some of your natural storage capacity. And how do you compensate for that? When you're losing green space or some deforestation, that accounts for some stormwater issues that will arise. A lot of the new areas being developed in the town are on steep slopes. And steep slopes have a higher than normal contribution to rapid flows, flash flows, things like that. I touched a little bit about the inadequacy of hydraulic capacity, that is the pipe sized appropriately. And then they get into where the water goes to, the watersheds, where it goes to, how are they? Are they at capacity? Are they silted up? Things like that. And all of the areas of concern have one or two or three or more of these in some varying levels. So what we're going to be doing over the next little while is taking the areas of concern, applying prioritizing the most critical ones that we can bring back to council as part of our stormwater capital plan that we have in our annual budget, but also using those same parameters to establish, like I said, a developer's guideline document that we can use, so that we can actually have a standard to which we can hold the developers and say, okay, this is the level that you have to build to, because we accept it and we impose it on ourselves. You should be able to, as a developer, follow that, and then when we take it over from you, we're maintaining it to a level that we want. So that's the basic principle and the sort of the overview of the stormwater asset management plan and the stormwater plan. Generally speaking, the asset management plans are relatively dry documents, and I don't really want to take up too much of your time, but it's one of these things that as we move throughout the development of the municipality in a comprehensive plan, you'll see each piece of the puzzle, how it comes together, and it gives us all a better tool for managing the long-term care and maintenance of the assets that we do own, and then an expectation of developers when they build what we will take on. So this is just the context of that document. We're just wrapping up the final versions of it now, and we'll be coming out with recommendations from this document that we will then be able to leverage into strategic statements for council's strategic plan in the future as we move forward. So just council, if that's, hopefully that gives you a sufficient bit of overview for the document itself.
Thank you, Mr. Loge, for the update and for the overview. Moving on to item number C, RFP number 2025 TQ02-3, Hampton Road, Route 100, Infrastructure and Corridor Analysis and Design. Proceed to Part B, Staff Report from Director of Engineering and Works. Deputy Mayor.
I would move that the town direct Englobe Corp Engineering to proceed with Part B of RFP number 2025 TQ02-3, Hampton Road, Route 100, Infrastructure and Corridor Analysis and Design for an upset fee of $75,219 plus HST, and the project be brought back to council prior to the award of Part C.
Thank you. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, Mr. Loge.
Thank you, Your Worship. One thing to add, as council is aware, this has all been approved in the capital budget that's upcoming. Essentially, we're financing it all ourselves, but it is still subject to potential funding from alternate sources. So we'll be looking at that. In addition, early in the new year, we'll have the consultants before you with a final updated design so that we will know what they are designing to, the standard they're designing to. I know there were some discussions about the multi-use trail, the alignment of the streetscape features, things of that nature. And we've taken, council's input from the last public session, from the meetings with the public at large, and we'll be bringing back, what we are basing our designs upon. We'll come back to council early in the new year.
Thank you, Mr. Logier. Deputy Mayor Squire on the question.
Yeah, just on that, Mr. Logier, just for what you said, so if there's something within the design that perhaps we have some questions about, there's still opportunities for adjustments, if we're saying, well, that wasn't quite, could we tweak this a little bit? Can that still happen when we're finished part B?
That's the intent of Part B, is to nail down what we want to see. So some of the infrastructure under the ground, the water, the sewer, that's going to have to be where it is regardless of what we choose. Some of the storm water is going to be subject to how we align curb and gutter up top. The paving with the DTI program will be essentially nailed down. So what we want to do is give council a feel for, at this stage, the consensus of council that we read and all of the public was that they preferred the multi-use trail, but there was some question with respect to alignment of streetscape, some of the features, but there will be some tweaking ability that we can do with that prior to going to tender, and that will be the thing that we bring back to council just for a final okay before we put pen to paper finally.
And if I could have a follow-up. Just one follow-up, thank you, Your Worship, is just on, this started quite a while ago, so as projects come in and are in consideration, do they become part of this consideration in part of this plan? As developments come to the town all the time, we never know when a developer is going to come forward with a suggestion, and how do you incorporate that as the process is going along?
Sure thing. The development officer, as you can attest to, now that the word is out that there's water coming to the Hampton Road, we're getting inquiries more regularly, and there are some that are set in stone, some that are being proposed, but most are general enough that we can make provision for services, water or storm or sanitary. When it comes to streetscape issues, what we'll do is we'll look at the least impactful version, so that in the past what we've done is if a developer comes up and says, I'm going to put a driveway here, they fix it at their cost or they repair it at their cost. If we know in advance, we'll try to accommodate it, but anything that a developer does that changes our infrastructure, they are ultimately responsible for that cost. But what we try to do is try to find the least onerous version so that they can allow for that. So generally speaking, we'll go to a property owner, say, here's what we're proposing, your driveway is going to be X width, this is the location. Most of the people will go, perfect, yes, that will fit in whatever I want. It's only when they come back and, oh, we changed our mind. I said, oh, that's kind of sucks to be you because we've already done this. So it is being designed with known development parameters in place and current constraints in place. So it's what we're trying to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Logier. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Squire, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Item 11D, Enterprise-Wide Asset Management Project, NFCM Climate Change Project. Staff report from Director of Engineering and Works. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. Be it resolved that Mayor and Council direct staff to continue working on the development of an enterprise-wide asset management plan and climate adaptation strategy and policy for Quispamsis with the selected consultants Gemtech Consulting Engineers and Scientists Limited.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, Deputy Mayor.
The question, thank you, Your Worship. I guess my question is, what does this not sort of dovetail into the stormwater management, and why are we having two different applications for what I thought could maybe be morphed into one?
The stormwater management plan is complete, and we're finishing up just the details. This particular study, what we're doing is we're taking all of the individual plans and making sure that they're in alignment, that we use this relatively the same templates and inputs, that we are accounting for them appropriately so that we can have a long-term financial strategy. But ultimately, one of the main takeaways from this will be what does the town of Quispamsis need to have an enterprise-wide software program that manages all of these plans together? So what you'll get is, say, for example, our work order management program that we have now with CityWorks, the Q11 system. If we put in a work request that says, let's replace 100 feet of storm sewer, for example, in the new software, it will enter in that that 100 feet has now been replaced in 2026 or 7 or whatever it is. Its new value is this. Its lifespan is 50 years. So in 50 years, you have to budget for an accounted for replacement as one component. So that financial aspect will be there as well. The other thing that the enterprise-wide system does is now you have all of your asset classes being planned on regular intervals. So you're correct in that the stormwater management plan will dovetail into the enterprise-wide plan, and it's all based on the 3 years ago when we did the comprehensive asset management strategies and policies and programs that council adopted. So we want to make sure that all of our documents are in alignment consistently with those plans and policies and documents that were approved 3 years ago when we adopted taking on managing a municipality under an asset management plan system.
Thank you, Mr. Loche. There it is. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote. She's good. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11E, 2025 projected general operating surplus and transfer to or from reserve funds. Staff report from Town Treasurer. Ms. Esty, please.
Through you, Your Worship, I just want to point out, if you look at the bottom of page 3, the asterisk with the uncommitted general capital reserve amount, that's actually our projected 2026 amount. It should be the 2025 uncommitted general capital reserve amount, which is like 1.4 million, not 2.3.
Thank you, Ms. Esty. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Prepared to make a motion. Be it resolved that $310,000 be transferred from the general operating fund to the general operating reserve fund for 2025 operating project carry forwards.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Second part to that, Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Yes, Your Worship. Nope, it jumped on me. There it is. Okay. Be it resolved that 150,000 be transferred from the general operating reserve fund to the general operating fund operating fund to fund the 2025 operating project.
Thank you. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Squire, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11F, 2025 projected utility operating surplus and transfer to or from reserve funds. Staff report from Town Treasurer.
There's a few more, yeah, there's a few more.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't scroll up enough.
Yeah.
We'll be here for a bit.
Okay. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. Be it resolved that 1,143,901 be transferred from the general operating fund to the general capital reserve fund as per the 2025 general operating budget.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item 11, no, it's not coming up on my screen. Not coming up. Councillor Bigger, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved that $1,213,000 be transferred from the general operating fund to the general capital reserve fund for 2025 capital project carry forwards.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote. Sorry, my screen was frozen and it wasn't moving up, so we got it now. Motion carried 7-0. And the next one. Councillor Donovan.
Be it resolved that $219,250 be transferred from the general operating fund to the general capital reserve fund for FRSC unspent capital.
It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Part 6. Councillor Olson.
Be it resolved that $53,830 be transferred from the general operating fund to the general capital reserve fund from the WorkSafe New Brunswick Performance Refund for future capital expenditures.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question. Deputy Mayor Squire.
Just on the question, Your Worship, through you to Ms. Esty, that is significantly lower than what we got before. Is there a reason for that?
It is. The rebates overall were lower, like the total amount of the rebate that WorkSafe gave out was significantly lower. We ended up with about the same percentage.
Thank you, Ms. Esty. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Next item 7. Councillor Donovan.
Be it resolved that $748,220 be transferred from general capital reserve fund to the general capital fund to fund capital carry forward projects completed in 2025.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item F, 2025 projected utility operating surplus and transfers to and from reserve funds. Staff report from Town Treasurer. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Worship. Be it resolved that $527,592 be transferred from the Utility Operating Fund to the Utility Capital Reserve Fund as per the 2025 budget.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Donovan on the question. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Next one, Councillor Olson.
Be it resolved that $157,123 be transferred from the Utility Operating Fund to the Utility Capital Reserve Fund for carry forward 2025 capital projects.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Luck on the question. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. The number 3, Councillor Olson.
Be it resolved that $394,025.40 be transferred from the Utility Capital Reserve Fund to the Utility Capital Fund for the prior year carry forward project costs and one current year project as specified by Council.
It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Bigger on the question. Please vote. Motion carried 7-0. That was it for that one. All right. Item number G, transfers to Utility Equipment Replacement Reserve Fund. Staff report from Town Treasurer. Councillor Luck, please.
Be it resolved that $9,463 be transferred from the 2025 Utility Operating Fund to the Utility Capital Replacement Reserve Fund to pay for future costs of replacement of capital items for town-owned lift pumps.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Luck, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Item number H, request for use of surplus funds for the Kennebec Regional Police Force. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Worship, through you to other members of council as well. We are in receipt of a request from the Kennebec Regional Police Force to consider application of 2025 surplus funds in their budget toward the purchase of a replacement patrol vehicle prior to the end of the calendar year. My understanding is this has been discussed by the police board, and I certainly defer to our able members of council who serve on that board for further discussion, but there was a subsequent recommendation to consult with the towns before proceeding. That recommendation certainly aligns with conversations and discussions internally and through me and the Ross CAO of the day with the leadership of not only police but also fire and library services that discussed how the use of surplus funds could best be accommodated without handcuffing the operations of the department, but by also recognizing the accountability to the towns, particularly with respect to large single purchase items or items that might introduce a longer term commitment. So in recognition of that accountability for the budget to the towns, because if there's a deficit, we are asked to fund that. So the converse is, if there's a surplus, the thought was that council deserves some consideration of that. That we want to make sure that there's a balance there, and that therefore this request has come to us for consideration. And the specific ask is for application of approximately $70,000 to replace an aging police vehicle. That the chief has since provided, and the board chair have both been very accommodating to our request for some additional information which has been provided. They've applied their methodology on asset management and are recommending a replacement sooner than later for that asset. I've applied what I'm calling the Watson methodology to consider the same. I'm happy to provide nerd-like details about that if you like, but perhaps it might be opportune for us to provide opportunity for either Councillor Bigger or Councillor Luck to comment on the process, and I can certainly provide a recommendation from my office as well. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Mr. Watson. Yeah, I think as some may know, a little over a year ago, there was some ongoing discussion with the board chair and then chief of the police, with the CAOs of the two funding bodies, the town of Quispamsis and the town of Rossay, regarding the need for consultation when this sort of circumstance occurs. It's hard to know for sure when budgets are put together a long ways ahead of where a potential surplus might appear, and but there was a sense that it would be important that there be sort of a baseline consultation when it comes to making use of higher than anticipated surplus funds to try to accommodate things like, in this case, a capital asset of a patrol car. These surplus funds projected for the force this year are the result of, they come from the other income category of the budget. They're the result of higher than expected performance of, and some dividends related to sick and retirement reinvested funds, I think. So with a proposed surplus of about $251,000 and projected costs and expenditures related to December's operating of the force of about $60,000, that puts them at about $190,000. And so the cost of a vehicle is estimated to be around $70,000. This was an item that was included in their initial budget, and when Joint Finance requested that all of our shared services went back, sharpened their pencils, and given our current fiscal realities, perhaps reduce their expenditures, this came out of the budget. It was one of the things that was asked for, but came out in an effort to toe the line with what Joint Finance and the towns were asking. As it turns out, there is more projected to arrive in this surplus than what was thought would be there. And so on its face, it seems like an objectively reasonable request. We thought as a board to ask that there be a consideration. But the agreement amongst the board is that the towns have asked for a baseline sort of duty to consult with the towns when these things happen. And so that's what's brought it before us all tonight. And I guess I think that pretty much accounts for the situation. And so this is not reallocating of dollar for dollar funds that were budgeted for, outside of the reality that they did want to originally budget for a vehicle and couldn't. Fleet maintenance being what it is, it's sort of putting good money after bad a little bit, as opposed to being able to find some change in the couch cushions, as it were, and be able to make this happen should that be amenable to the towns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks, Councillor Bigger, for the summary. And I guess from my office, I would just offer a quick look at the data that was provided by the police department. Confirms that the depreciated value of the police patrol vehicle that they're asking to replace is less than $5,000. The cumulative cost of repairs of that asset has already exceeded $5,000, and there's more repairs pending. So to my mind, when those two lines intersect is usually when an asset should be considered for replacement. So it'd be my recommendation to proceed with approval of the replacement as proposed prior to the end of calendar 2025. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I just bear with me. I want to make sure I understand this. So this is for this budget year, not the budget that we just passed for them for 2026. I do appreciate them coming back with the surplus and asking if it can be spent, because we did really ask everybody to tighten their belts this year, as we did as well. And so I hesitate to say, yes, go ahead and spend your surplus, and at the same time and understand the need for the car, but that's still our taxpayers' dollars. So I guess my question is, if they're, Mr. Councillor Baker, can you tell me what their surplus will be now with the car taken out? What will their surplus end up being for 2025? And if you have a reason as to why, you said dividends, but dividends couldn't have given us 200 and whatever thousand in surplus.
I don't remember what the original proposed or projected surplus was, but I know that 251 is where it was projected to land, minus 60,000 projected for December expenses and operations of the force, puts you at 190, subtract 70 from that for the vehicle, and we have a surplus of 120, which would of course get charged back in the second ensuing budget year. So that's the ask, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I don't know if there's if we should make a motion maybe, and I can do that, that this council lend support to the request from the KV or the KRPF board for the use of their surplus funds.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Item 9 is correspondence. Oh, I'm sorry. Look at how fast we've gone through this. It's on the wrong page. Item 12 is reports. Item 13, business arising from committee of the whole. There is none. Item 14, looking for an adjournment. Moved by Councillor Olson. Seconded by Councillor Miller. On the question, please vote. Motion carried, and we will return to closed. But we would all like to wish everyone once again a very Merry Christmas from council, myself, and from staff. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.